Holy shit. A new flu with, what was the headline?
So I'm going to stop you right there. I don't want to hear where
I don't
this goes.
know if I want to hear the rest of
Essentially,
the
oh
sentence.
man, that's loud.
What happened?
It's just super loud.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to hear the rest of that sentence, dude.
New flu in China with pandemic.
I knew fucking.
Yeah.
Oh
Possibility is what the headline was.
Holy shit, we're all really gonna die.
my
Like it's
fuck.
not even like a joke anymore.
Are you
It's just-
recording?
Yeah.
This should be part of it, dude.
This is the beginning, the out of context clip that always plays at the beginning of podcasts
Yep.
and videos now.
Exactly.
Everybody, welcome back to Wicked Good Everything, and welcome back to Better Radio, and this is on the Better Radio podcast feed. We're double dipping, we like to get as much as we can out of every piece of content here.
Just like Naughty Dog.
Just like Naughty Dog. We are joined today by Tamur Kutab. Tamur, how you doing?
Hello, everyone. Good to see you again.
Tamur, you are in Seattle.
I am.
Yeah, pretty dangerous. Don't,
Is this the chop?
What's
what was that?
Is this the chop?
The chop?
Oh,
Do you guys watch the news?
the Chaz, the Chop, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the chop.
Yeah.
The zone that was taken over. And
Yeah.
yeah, this is it
Weird
now
time.
already. It's just covered in vines.
Yeah, a buddy of mine got shot this morning, but honestly, it's like freedom, Freedom's worth the price of getting a bullet.
It's a freedom. It's a privilege to be shot to death in an American city.
Anyway, so we're here to talk about The Last of Us Part 2, which is very exciting. Of course, huge game for Naughty Dog, huge game for PlayStation, huge game for just all of us stuck at home during this pandemic. First, I guess, thoughts, Liam, what'd you think of The Last of Us Part 2?
So I don't like watching trailers to movies, or I don't like absorbing marketing for something that I know I'm going to have an interest in.
Right.
So I loved The Last of Us 1, right? Thought it was a great game, maybe PS3's best game that I played.
Okay.
And so I knew for sure I was going to play The Last of Us 2, right? But I went into it completely blind. I had no expectations other than it's a Naughty Dog game, and I've played all the Uncharted games and The Last of Us 1. So I'm like, it's probably going to be of a pretty high caliber. I was pretty. So what are we spoiling? What are we?
Just give
we should
a
probably decide
Be
now.
like a vague overview at first. And
Okay,
then
sure,
we can-
sure. So I didn't. I have since, now that I've beaten the game, I've went and I watched a couple like E3 trailers and stuff, and every time I do this, and I sat through the Avengers like Endgame, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I had no expectation. I'm going into the game completely blind. I've since looked at the E3 trailers and stuff, and I am only kind of emboldened in making that decision afterwards, because I feel like if I had seen those trailers, I would have had a different expectation for what the game ended up being. And personally, I was so taken for a ride, right? I had no idea where it was going. I didn't know how long it was. I sure as shit didn't know it was as long as it was. And I just thought it was a joy, man. The like from the get-go, you play it and you're like, wow, nothing quite looks like this. No, I'm not even talking about graphically, but like the animations. Everything's so goddamn smooth. Like it looks like art the whole time. And it's a joy to play. I very quickly was taken by it, and I just kind of went on a ride. I let it take me wherever it wanted. So,
And what would you give it 1 to 10?
a 9 at least.
9.
Yeah,
Or
between a
I-
9 and a 10. I don't know. It's not like perfect, I don't think. But I also didn't think the first one was perfect either. I just think we didn't know what to expect from it, and it was so good in so many regards that people were like, "Oh, it's a masterpiece," and I think at the time it was fair. But now that we've played The Last of Us 1 already, going into The Last of Us 2, we knew how good it could be, and I'd say it was at least as good as the first game and better in a lot of different regards. But one came out in 2013 and one came out in 2020. So your expectations are different.
Right. All right, Tamur, what were your thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2?
Yeah, I mean, I was somewhat along the same lines. I huge fan of The Last of Us One. It's probably one of my favorite games of all time. Probably like, yeah, honestly, like top three favorite games of all time, in no order. But unlike Liam, I did watch a few of the like cinematic trailers. I never watched the sort of the late in the game trailers that show you like, plot points or like, quick cuts and
Right.
stuff like that. I just kind of watched the cinematic ones, like the very first one of Ellie playing guitar, and almost they almost feel like non-canonical. So I felt like justified watching those.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it once I started hearing like bad reviews from people online, I was a little bit nervous. But to be honest, I always had faith in Neil Druckmann, and I really did think he was gonna, pull off a really, a really strong story that would do series justice. And I still believe that after I've beaten it and spent like over 30 hours in the world. I think it's completely unique, and really like pushes video games further in a way that we don't often see. Yeah, and I would probably give it like a 9 or even like higher. Not it's not not perfect.
A high
Nothing's
9.
perfect, but yeah, definitely a high 9.
Right. Right. So for me, I really liked the game. I should say, like, in terms of, like Liam was touching on, the animations from moment to moment are absolutely incredible. Like, technically, this game is maybe the greatest I've ever played. I haven't played Death Stranding. I know Death Stranding has like a million unique animations
This
for
game is
every
better than Death Stranding.
possible.
Just leave
I
it at
can't
that.
say I haven't played Death Stranding yet.
Sure,
But
it is.
I like the world, a very bleak world, obviously, but a world that's like fun to spend 25 hours in, not your whole life. That would suck if this is your real life. But and I liked the story. I liked the story itself. For me, I thought it was not very well paced in the way that I can't go into spoilers until like a few minutes from now when we get into that section, but I thought the pacing was bad, and it went from when I was about 10 hours into this is the greatest game I've ever played to like the last like 7-ish hours. I felt a little bit like I was just grinding to get through it rather than enjoying the game for itself. Yes.
I mean, you can finish talking. But I have some things to say.
Yeah. And that's obviously just for me. Like, I'm sure it didn't feel the same for everybody. But for me, that was enough to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Still very
Ridiculous. Bro, you don't play like you're gonna buy Madden again next year too, I bet. Like,
yeah, but I'm also
like, you
not,
fucking piece of shit. Like, I don't know what
I'm
to say.
also not rating. I'm not rating Madden.
Dude, no one should
7.5.
even like those. I don't want to
Feels
like
low to me,
discredit
Brian.
your.
Feels low.
I don't want to like discredit your opinion or Brian's. Yeah, everyone's entitled to it, but like, I think it's important to be consistent with them. So,
well, I'm also excited that it's not just going to be like the three of us, like praising this game for like an hour.
I like it.
It's like,
I
that's
like
good
it a
to-
lot.
Yeah.
I just thought there were certain things that were presented in a way that made it less compelling as an entire package. For me, I know you don't agree, but
yeah,
I
I
think
think that's
like
fair.
you.
I do think that's
I
fair,
can't-
though.
like for me, when I was playing it, I was sitting there in a moment where I was just like, I'm not really having fun anymore.
Yeah.
Do you
like
think that could have had something to do with the fact that you played it like 5 days straight for a podcast and you didn't really try? You didn't pace yourself. Do you think there's anything to do with that?
I think if I didn't force myself to
So you said
get
it. You said
through it,
force. Yeah.
I would have been even less inclined to do it as a whole, if that makes sense.
No. To me, not. But it doesn't. I
I
mean,
don't
like
know.
you're into.
It's kind of like when you're doing like a workout and you have like a bunch of different workouts in a circuit, and there's one thing you really hate, but once you get past it, you'll probably be good to go for the rest of the rest of the workout. That's kind of how it felt at a certain point. It was like, oh, I don't like this, but I'm going to keep going because I want to see if it can get back to, the point where I was feeling before, like when I said, oh, this is like the greatest game I've ever
I
played.
feel like we need specific. Maybe we should get into
Yeah,
spoiler territory.
So that's if we do end up clipping this as a non-spoiler thing, those are my thoughts. If you want to hear me elaborate and you finish the game, of course, or you don't give a shit and you didn't buy the game and you just want to hear what people think about it, check out the full-length episode on our channel and on Better Radio. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, pretty much any podcast service. All right. If you're still here, we're going to spoil it. So just so you know.
Let's talk about it chronologically. I guess we can start off with, did you guys see the, first big thing that happens in the game coming? Did you think that was going to happen?
No. So the big spoiler, obviously, again, here we go. Joel dies very early on. Probably, 3 hours into the game, if that.
If you're bad
I
at
feel
it.
like I know. I feel like it's
Yeah.
like about an hour in.
An hour
It's
into
actually pretty early on, depending on how you pace yourself. I personally pace myself quite slowly throughout the whole game, just to kind of like really absorb everything. But yeah, it happens really early on, and it sets the tone for the entire game.
Very unexpected, very brutal.
Yeah.
So obviously, when you start off the game, you switch between Joel and Ellie, just what you did in the first one. But there comes a point where you switch to Abby, a completely new character. You don't know her intentions whatsoever. You just know she's with a group who's looking for somebody in Jackson. And as you're playing with her, you have some pretty like neat moments that overlap with Ellie's like patrol that you've been playing. And eventually she meets up with Tommy and Joel. They fight their way through a really like scary horde.
Very cinematic.
Yeah, like there's a one point where you're crawling like through a fence that's like being
caving in
downed
on
by
you. Yeah.
a bunch of the infected, and it's scary
Yeah, definitely.
as shit. And you get through that, you get back to the lodge. Tommy and Joel like say, hey, you guys can stop by Jackson if you need supplies, whatever. And then Abby and her friends beat the shit out of Tommy, shoot Joel in the leg with the shotgun.
Yeah, it's memorable in a way where it's like, how like the most exciting parts of your life like make that like the imprint in your brain. Like that's how I feel about that scene. Like I only played it once. I only have seen it visually once, but it's like it's like stuck there. It's like the the microseconds of like, then this, he said this and then they said that and then like it just happened. And well, yeah, then again they do show it. They technically show it twice once you're down the road, you're in Abby's perspective, and I'm glad that they did that. But I mean, we probably shouldn't go like beat by beat because it's a long ass game. But
I mean, but I think that's a good place to start talking. It's so early on. Like
I will say Joel had a pretty badass line where he's like, "Go on, say what you've been rehearsing and get it over with." I was like, "Yeah."
Did you
This guy's a badass.
gonna
and
die?
crazy.
Yeah, it's just like
fucking badass.
yeah, I like that he had in death. Like he didn't like, fold. I don't know. He was Joel. Like,
you're Joel to the end.
You got to respect that, even like when you can see it in a character, But I think probably a good. Did you guys have a problem with that? Because I feel like a lot of controversy with the game is a lot of people had a problem with that, and then they totally wrote the game off past that point.
Right. I think for me it worked because it's like, in that moment you're like, I don't know why he's getting killed, but I know at the very least what Joel did at the end of the last game and what he hinted at doing in other parts of the game, such as when like the guy's pretending to be hurt and to get their attention and then shoots at them. and he kind of implies that he's done the same thing in the past. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like Joel has dark history. Joel has screwed people over. He's killed people. He probably had this coming, as
Certainly.
much
In a
as you
way,
hate to
yeah,
say
yeah,
it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Even
No.
at that point when you didn't know exactly what he was getting killed for, it was for me like, okay, he definitely had this guy. This isn't just some people in the middle of winter came to Wyoming to track him down
Yeah.
and kill him.
I-
Like,
Sorry to.
no, yeah, this,
I want to mention one thing that's actually before this that'll just connect real quick. I just assumed that these people were in retribution. I know it's a mystery, but the game's first scene is amazing, and it's forgotten by most people. It's literally Joel playing the guitar and telling Tommy what he did. It's a moment that I thought we might have got like 6 hours into this game, but it's the first fucking scene.
Yeah.
And
Just fucking jump into it.
yeah, it was so like, oh my god, I was like, no shit, I've waited years
Yeah,
to see how people react to this. I never would have thought we were getting it so off the bat. And like they didn't have to do that, but they knew they had other things to tell you. And that's what I really liked about it. But when, within like an hour or so, we're seeing him get beaten to death, I just assumed like, okay, it's probably something to do with the fact that Joel is like this in-universe supervillain because he damned humanity.
did
Right.
that for you guys work? Did you like that was the ultimate reason that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
He deserved to die because of it, I think.
Yeah, ultimately I did like that because I mean my bigger point is that it's called The Last of Us Part 2, and you can never make this game without a Part 1. It's like the perfect, you have this setup of this guy who's righteous in his own mind, and I'm sure a lot of fathers would make this same choice of like save their daughter and damn the world. But it is ultimately, if you look at it from a wider perspective, is like really fucked up, and they could have saved the world essentially. And to move on from that and not be like, okay, the second game is about Joel trying to like right this wrong, or just like dealing with it's not really his story. It's all about it's about Ellie, and it's I don't know, I just thought that was just the right move.
Yeah.
I really, really like how you just said, Tamur, like how Joel is like righteous in his own mind. Because like I really feel like that's the whole point of The Last of Us, is like terrible things happen between people that think they're good people, and it especially with this game, like you'll hate someone until the game is trying to like teach you that if everyone understood where people were coming from, things wouldn't be what they are. I think like that's I know that there's the A story, but the B story, like subtext, was really what was more interesting to me, just as what the game was trying to say.
Oh yeah,
I
no,
think,
exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead, Brian.
All right, yeah. I think there are definitely a few like heavy themes. Like I think the biggest theme of The Last of Us Part 1 is what would you do for the people you love? And then this one is kind of what would you do to avenge the people you love, mixed in with revenge ultimately destroys the person taking the revenge out on people. It burns you up, both morally and, in Abby's case, like she lost all of her friends. Like
So did Ellie.
Ellie, yeah.
Basically,
Yeah,
I mean, it's like the old like classic story of like an eye for an eye makes the world blind. It's just to me it was like just such a like what other game does that? I wouldn't even call like The Last of Us like fun necessarily, but
Yeah.
I mean the combat and a lot of like
Yeah,
stuff
it can
and
be
stuff,
fun. For
super
sure.
fun.
Like
But
when you set a trap down and someone runs into it and blows up, you're like, "Fuck yeah,
Yeah.
like, I'm a badass."
yeah, exactly. But ultimately, like the story is just it's such a deep narrative that like I have really never experienced in any other game where you are the player on both sides. You're in control of this. You're like,
Yeah.
Abby, you're trying to like kill Ellie at the end, and I'm just like, I don't want to hit fucking square.
Yeah, I don't want
What
to hit
the
Ellie.
fuck?
Yeah.
Games
Yeah, there's a
like,
point in that battle where
dude,
I got stabbed and died, and I was like, all right, well, this is the end, I guess.
I thought that too. I was like, all right, so I have to do it. I can't just die.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm really happy, again, you said it, like that, Tamur, because, like, again, there's a lot of people that are online and, like, people say, like, oh, the story is not as good as the first one. And I'm like, dude, this story is way better than the first one's story, in my opinion. The first one's story is, like, very straightforward. There's not much beyond the narrative you're getting. And it's a very, very good and compelling narrative, but it's very secular. Where this, you get the A story, and fine, there's problems with the A story, but, like, the B and the C, the layers of the story that the first game doesn't have are way stronger, in my opinion.
Yeah, the first game is very tight. Like the first scene and the last scene, it just comes full circle with the father-daughter relationship, and sort of like Joel traveling across the country in this like awful world, and him like trying to salvage this like relationship that he lost. Whereas this one, it's just so much more complex, and like as a player, like it I can't even like really like overstate it, but it has something in this medium of video games where you're controlling things, where you're the player. It plays with like ethics and like all of these things that are just like so complicated as far as like the human experience, and I just think it's so brilliant for that.
Yeah, I think you really need like an interactive medium of like something that is like granular like this, where it's like 20, 25 hours to like what medium makes you feel empathy like this,
So
like,
I think what this game reminded me of, in a sense, a little bit is the Song of Ice and Fire books, where you're seeing all these things happen from everyone's different perspective.
yeah,
And you're understanding everyone's motivations and how everyone's actions affect everyone else. I think, other than a book, I don't think you can even,
well,
like, maybe a TV
a
show,
movie
but
like a Tarantino film, I guess, with like a bunch of different like. I just mean like you're having like a tangible effect, I guess, and like, you see, Joel like was flawed to his core, but I was sad to see him die. You know what I mean? And I thought, like, I was like, okay, that gives you immediacy. We should probably start moving the story, so I'll do it this way. But that is such an immediate. Okay, fuck it. I don't really care what anything else going on in this world is. I have a mission. I want to avenge the character I cared about.
And as a player, that's what you're feeling right in that moment.
Yeah. And then the game, it goes on for so long. I don't know about you guys, but like, it wasn't very long into this adventure that Ellie embarks on where I'm like, this isn't worth it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which is what I think the game, like, I mean, so again, when you play as Abby halfway through the game, right? If I had played as Abby, if they had done something like, Brian, I know I talked to you about this. One of your gripes were, at least initially, was that you thought the stories should have interconnected, and you like it would go from like a sequence of Ellie, then Abby, and like pancake like that.
at least more frequently, and at least more like, because Ellie had such a big impact on, or Abby had such a big impact on Ellie's story and motivation. I would have liked to see Ellie, what you play as Ellie, interacting and motivating Abby.
Yeah.
See,
I wonder if they tried that.
I think that would be really cliche, and here's why. I think that, sure, it would have been easier to follow, right, if there was these stories overlapping and whatever, but I needed to go through all of Ellie's mission, realize it was frivolous, realize everything that she's doing is stupid and not worth the end objective, to even consider hearing out the girl that bashed Joel's head in. But by the time I had finished Ellie's campaign, I'm like, fuck it, I'll hear her out. Like, and I gotta see. And then the game, I've never felt like, there's a game called Spec Ops: The Line, and there's a sequence in that game that makes you feel guilt, like real guilt. And I'm playing with this dog as Abby that I had just used a landmine maybe 4 hours before to blow up in a hospital. And I'm playing catch with it. And I'm like, this is maybe the most fucked up thing I've ever done. Because like this was an enemy 4 hours ago that I lured into a fucking landmine and watched it blow up, and I heard someone scream
Right.
bear.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm fucking playing with it. It's like catch it, go fetch bear. Like there's no other thing that can like really make you feel guilt like that because you know you killed that dog. You didn't. Maybe you didn't even have to. Maybe you could have avoided it. You're questioning that the whole time. You know.
Yeah, no, you can't
The
avoid
dog
it.
will find you.
Yeah, no.
No matter what.
I bet you could have avoided
No,
it.
but it's the physical pressing of the buttons, being in control. That's you can't mimic that with any other medium. And in a sense, you could time jump in like a movie or a TV show, and granted in like a series, like a full season, you can get a lot of storytelling done, and you could potentially tell something with this same theme. But I don't believe it would have the same effect because you wouldn't be controlling both sides.
So, Brian, I know you do you still argue for like a more interconnected story?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I know like the themes, the writing, the minute to minute story is very good. To have the story climax and then to rip it away and restart the game at that moment is, in my opinion, very bad writing and very bad pacing. And it killed a lot of the enthusiasm I had while playing.
Yeah, because there was another game in a game, and you're like, I wanted to be done. You
It
you
wasn't
wanted
I
to
wanted
rush
to be
through it.
done,
That's
it
on
was
you.
just-
Like,
it
why can't you
was-
admire the fact that like the game gives you an entire game with like an arc that you should have been like I was able to figure out by the time it takes the control away from you, and then it forces you into a whole new game, right? A whole new game that could have been The Last of Us Part 3, and then you do
but
that like.
I'm not playing The Last of Us Part 3. I'm playing The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, but you gotta
At least
like.
I thought I was. And then all of a sudden I wasn't.
Part 2, yeah.
I don't know. I would personally take the thing that pushes the boundary and pushes the envelope and gives me something that I authentically was surprised and amazed that they gave me over, like, I don't know. I've seen a story intercut like that 100 times, and I think it would have felt so fucking long if you played at day one. It felt very long. But if you went from Seattle day 1 to Seattle day 1 to Seattle day 2 to Seattle day 2 to Seattle day 3, it would have felt, I think, even longer because you would have gone to an arc at the end of day 1, and that, or I just
I definitely see
I can't agree.
I think I don't know,
What do you
Brian.
think of Abby?
Abby
that's
is
a good
fine. She's interesting. I like how she's jacked, and obviously I like lifting weights, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like that
and-
aspect too.
Like you don't see that very often, where there's a female character just being like a brawler, like
Yeah.
fucking smashing infected heads like over her knee. Like I liked that, and I enjoyed when I think back on Abby's story. I enjoyed playing it for sure. I enjoyed her, adventure. I just didn't enjoy getting to the climax of one story. It felt like, to me, like reading a book and getting to the last chapter and then putting the book down and reading another book, and it's just like, wow, I would never do that, and the fact that I'm being forced to do that, especially because they had very little interaction. There was really no, other than the one scene
Well, I
where you
think
find,
That's the point, though. Like,
Yeah,
Ellie's
I think
hunting
that's
her.
like kind
that's
of
her
the-
whole.
it's like you don't know your enemy because you make this assessment of like he killed or she killed him, she's bad. You don't know the other side of the story, and it sort of it plays with it, it being a game in itself where you're killing people, and all of these people assumably have storylines, have their own fucking lives. They've survived the apocalypse and gotten here, and yet you like kill them, and then like their teammates like whistling for them, and it's like that's their fucking friend, or
they're screaming
it's
names
like
out.
the fucking like dogs, like that's just goddamn brutal. But
right.
I love
I will
it.
say, Brian, like I had the same exact feeling. I literally had that thought when it cuts to black halfway through, and then you have to you play Abby, And in my head, I was like, oh my God, this better just be like one scene. And then I realized it was like, day one, I had like, one gun and I had to like build up everything and level up and all that. And in my head, I was like, fuck you. I see why all the reviews are bad now. And like,
Yeah.
I was ready to dismiss it.
Mm.
But as it went along, and I would say one of the turning points for me was meeting Lev and his sister. I forget her name, but
Yara.
yeah, like that
Yeah.
scene is actually my favorite scene in the game as far as just the most excitement. I love like
So
the ending
good.
and stuff, but like as far as just like you're thrown into this, you kind of don't like this character because she killed your fucking like favorite character from the first game. But at the same time, you don't want her to hang in this moment. It's like
Yeah.
you're actually on her side by then, and then it just cinematically goes into this like chase scene with the scars who you've been, or maybe I should call them seraphites. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
I feel bad even just saying that, but like then you're
they're all dead. It doesn't matter.
yeah. Well, it's like you've been killing these people,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're teaming up with them, and you realize there really are no real sides, or at least just they're these human constructions that have, like
So I think for me, that was one of the things that the game didn't necessarily stick the landing on. Was the game has a lot to do with tribalism. It has a lot to do with how easy it is to ostracize and villainize another group. But Ellie doesn't see the Seraphites that much, and when she does, they're more of a confusing side thing that you have no context for, that you get context with Abby for.
Yeah. I think that's the point.
No, yeah, but I wish there was more overlap for Ellie too, because when you play them, you're just like, okay, they're just like a random religious
Right.
group.
That's what she says.
You know, yeah, it's off-putting for Ellie, but it also ultimately doesn't matter for Ellie. Like, she never runs into them again after she kills like them a few times in her story. She moves on. She has a confrontation with Abby. She gets left to leave, and they never come up again in Ellie's story. So I just think they could have done a better job of incorporating this 3-faction like war a little more into the main storyline of the game, rather than making it the primary focus of just the back half of the game.
Doesn't that like add to the theme though a little bit more? Like the idea that like you have these people, and because you're in a place where you shouldn't be as Ellie, you're in someone's home and you're killing them. So
But you're not even in there. Like, they're supposed to be just on their island, right? So you're in the wolf's territory, and so are they. And there's never any chance
but
of you
what I mean is like they
reasoning
live in
with
Seattle.
them or playing off the two groups against each other as it's just kind of their individual entities within
But would Ellie
her
have even
campaign.
cared?
Was that?
Like Ellie wasn't there for the Seraphites. You know what I mean? She was there to hunt this person. She had one objective, and everything else was kind of like second to that. And I think, and again, another reason as to why I think the narrative only works in the way that they gave it is when you retroactively get all this context, who people are, who are the people that you've already killed and interacted with. Now, Ellie, if you want like Ellie to have some, like the only way Ellie would have like had to care with the Seraphites is if they kidnapped her or something, and then she had like a 6-hour side story that has nothing to do with her story. And I think the way that they're handled in her story makes the way they're handled in, Abby's story, makes sense. Like, these people don't know who Ellie is. Ellie's an outsider. Ellie has no understanding or appreciation of these politics. She's coming in. She's got this one objective. She just sees anyone here as an enemy that's violent. And Ellie's not, she's not there to learn the history of these people. And I'm sure there are notes that add some I know there are that add some context.
That's part of the thing too. Her finding out history is almost entirely the FDR or whatever it's called. And they're like a group that doesn't even exist anymore. And then a little bit of like early like wolf stuff.
Yeah, but like that's important because that's the history. You know, you can appreciate where these characters are coming from when you see where they've come from.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the instinct on Brian's end to like, yeah, incorporate that earlier on in the story, but I think because the game is so long, you kind of achieve that in Abby's end, and because her character is much more intermingled in that warfare and the two sides, and it's basically accomplished. But I mean, it's tough because it blurs for me a little bit as far as like how many times you fight the Seraphites as Ellie and sort of like, yeah, I mean they're kind
I
of in the
think it's a few
background,
times.
but even like,
What?
you know, toward the end, not to jump to the end too soon, but like when you're in that third, you know, in Santa Barbara, you see this other faction. There's
The
really,
revelers, yeah.
yeah, like they're truly fucked up, and you can tell. And I think that's sort of how Ellie views the scars, and that's kind of how you're supposed to, as the player. Like you feel this inherent righteousness as the player. Like anything you kill is like it's just part of your, you know, it's in your way, and you got to get to your ultimate goal. So they set up the Seraphites as this like thing that's just it's going to be annoying because she's going to have to like kill these people, but you know they're slightly in the way. Their lives don't really matter because they're weird and they
Right.
are, you know, they hang people or whatever.
And I thought they didn't necessarily give the Seraphites any bit of a redemption or glimpse into like the day-to-day lives of the people living there, because they did that a lot with the wolves.
Right.
But like what you see with the Seraphites is like Yara goes back and has to, or yeah, he goes back with Abby to try to save Lev, who ends up getting his face all cut up from his mom, who's like, you know, it's just like, damn, this group is really fucked up. Like, you know, I wish they did more to humanize the Seraphites in a similar way to how they humanize the wolves.
Right.
You know?
They really only do it with like the art direction, you know, like yeah, you know, I guess in a way it's sort of the same mechanic that they use where like, you know, when you start off the game as Ellie, you're walking through Jackson, you're seeing these like gardens and stuff. Jump to Abby, you literally go through the same motions, and you literally have to like pick up, you know, press the triangle to like pick up a round object, in this case snowball. You know, they mirror all this stuff. They don't really do that with the Seraphites, but it's, I think, somewhat implied with like sort of the way the camp is set up. But you don't really get a glimpse of that. You're just like killing people like usual.
I mean, I think there's a fair amount of like environmental storytelling when you're going through the village, and you see all these people that they're afraid. There's a group coming, and
yeah, and the dialogue too.
You know, you see like, and you know, you're an enemy to those people, so you're not gonna get like a compassionate, like, you know, you're carrying with you like someone that was like is ostracized from that community, and you've killed a ton of those people. I don't think, yeah, I mean, I don't think they needed more context, because from like the notes, like I don't know how many of those you read, but like you get the history, you can figure out what it is, and it's a commentary on religion. And I bet, to be honest with you, there probably was more about them that they like. There's one conversation you're having with Lev, as you're, I think, like right after the awesome, terrifying, environmentally scary bridge sequence.
Yeah.
Right? And he's just talking about, it's like, it wasn't this way. You know, our prophet like never killed it. We didn't start killing anyone until our prophet died. And if you just like what that's trying to say,
Well, that's
you know
not
what I mean?
that's not what he said. It was like, our prophet didn't kill anyone. It was like, yeah, she did. She bombed soldiers and like killed our people. So maybe Lev doesn't know, but
I don't think that's what they say.
No, it is 100%.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that Lev says our prophet preached nonviolence, and after they die, those people start killing and started. Yeah, Lev says it wasn't until she died that
Well, I think
they
that's
started
yeah.
committing crimes, and that's what the point is that they're trying to get across. Like,
Well, yeah, I think the
whatever
point
this
is
group
like
is now, it's not what it was supposed to be.
right. Well, I think the point that that you guys, because I don't really remember quite what it was either, but I think it speaks to the bigger point of like neither of these people were there. They're like young and stuff, and they weren't there for the outbreak day or whatever it's called. um they're understanding things from their own sides, and they're like for the first time like ever they're kind of hearing things out from the other side, and there's neither of them know for sure. um and they're both gonna like defend both their sides.
Yeah, they're right.
But yeah, I think like the point of them is to show that like even good can be manipulated by bad, and like
Well,
yeah, like if it's like you practice
the
what these
the
people
Seraphites are
preach.
definitely
Yeah, but that's the point.
posed as a group of people who maybe aren't the best people. Like,
yeah, but to them they're probably good people, and that's like the
I mean, they sent out like a straight up horde to chase Yara and Lev because Lev
Ellie
decided
kills like an
Lev
entire
wanted to
city
be a
of
guy
people.
instead of.
Well, here's the thing.
Not a single person in the story is a good person. You
Yeah,
throw it out the window.
right. That's the general, like, for me that's the theme. The theme for the entire like franchise, which carries heavily into this game, is that Joel saves Ellie, but he's really like he's damning the world, and he's damning her because he's keeping her in this world. And that's what we see pan out in this game, is like this fucked up thing where she's following in his footsteps, like killing people, and like it's a fucking cruel world. And he threw her into that. And yeah, I think that's the whole point. It's like it's fucked up on both ends. There's definitely some good and some like humanity still left in people.
Yeah.
But like, if you want to get revenge, you've got your reasons, but then you're just gonna like fucking continue the like cycle.
Right. I think, like I said, I just think the Seraphites had the least nuanced portrayal. Obviously Lev is transgender. They want to kill Lev for that, and for refusing to be like given as a wife to one of the like higher ups,
right?
Even though Lev's like 13 at most. Like there was just maybe it was cut out for time because the game already for some people felt long in the tooth, and maybe it would have felt too long to have that all. But I don't know. I think it goes back a little bit to what I was saying, where I wish the stories had more interaction with each other, because then maybe you could have worked in ways for Ellie to interact with the Seraphites that wasn't just, oh, okay, the person here, kill them, move on,
I disagree, but my like to more hit on it, but I needed to realize Ellie was as evil as everyone else, and I only could do that by the 12 hours of gameplay you have up front. And when that story ends and Abby's begins, I was at a point where I didn't really think any of these characters deserved to live. If Ellie died, that's fine. It's not like at this point, like she's a fucking serial mass murderer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't want her to die. I definitely didn't want her to die.
No. But I'm saying like, it didn't really feel like I was being taken from that ending and put into another game. It felt like I was getting the full understanding of the ending, and they needed to flip it that way. And I was only gonna appreciate that side of the story when I realized Ellie was evil. And it took those 12 hours up front for me to even want to hear Abby out.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a little unfair to be like, Ellie's this horrible mass murderer when pretty much every game, like, the main character kills like
Right.
1,000 people.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
the
like,
context in this universe is
Yeah.
if it's worth killing all these people for one life, that is bad, especially if it's done in revenge.
Right.
Like,
Well, that's Brian. That's totally my point. It's like this plays with the medium in a way that's like that really makes you think as a gamer, as like a player, where it's just like you you can't. I mean, we kill people all the fucking time, and it's so casual in video games, including the goddamn like
in real life.
you know, yeah, and obviously in our daily lives.
right.
But you know, in The Last of Us, the first one, it's like kind of what you were saying earlier, Liam. It's like it could have been revenge for like literally anyone that Joel had killed. It was coming. And
Yeah.
that's what this game kind of makes you think about, where it's like, maybe I shouldn't just like kill every single person in this area and then move on. Maybe I should like try and hide and get away, you know.
Empathy.
But I also wanted to find all of the like the pages and all of the like cards, so I ended up killing most people just so I could explore the map. But
Right.
yeah,
Just get them out of the way.
but I felt bad about it.
Could we talk about Abby a little bit? I just feel like we've definitely hit Ellie pretty hard. So, and again, I think Abby's story is better than Ellie's. And I think there's a lot more nuance to it, a lot more character. I mean, there are characters, but there's a lot more like history and there's a lot more just going on than a simple revenge story. You have like a revenge story. You have the after effect of a revenge story, right? And I think that by the end of the game, Abby or Ellie are gonna duke it out. I wasn't sure how it was gonna go. I knew if Abby was ever gonna get her hands on Ellie, she'd just fucking like snap her. But like, I knew that there was gonna like probably be, I didn't know what was gonna happen, which was engaging, like until the end, because I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. I don't know what way I want it to go.
Right.
At this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah. So one of the few changes that I would make, and this was like my first thought during the scene, but when at the end of Abby's arc, when you are basically fighting Ellie in the basement of the theater, in my head I was like, I really wish that they had switched back to Ellie at this point, because then you have the perspective of like, as the player, you're like, fuck, I don't want to kill this person. I know Ellie does with all of her fucking heart, and in her mind this is why she's here. But as a player, I don't know if I want to. I actually wanted the game to switch back. It would be like, like you've just spent literally 3 chapters with this person, and now we're just going to pull you out and like put you back into like the perspective that I know you've wanted to play this whole time, but like now you don't want to kill this person. And then obviously with like I guess you call it epilogue, which is like literally like 2 hours longer. I understood why they kept it in Abby's perspective, because they wanted that last payoff. But like, yeah, that was one of the few changes that I definitely would have made as far as like story arc.
Personally, I thought playing as Abby, when you're like chasing Ellie around, is like some of the most memorable gameplay I experienced this generation, because I'm like you said earlier, I don't hit square. I was like, man, this is so intense, and you watch Ellie and you watch her act way smarter than any of the other AI in the game.
Yeah.
And
Setting
she's
up
doing
traps
things that like you taught her, like, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
And now you're going against her, and she's the hardest enemy in the game, and it's like, I thought it was neat as how for them to do it that way, because it made me feel more than it would have made me feel if I just saw Ellie kill Abby at that point. I was like,
oh yeah, no,
intense,
I thought it. I definitely, I wouldn't have rewritten this sort of like Abby lets her live. I just think it would have been interesting to be in more in Ellie's perspective, even though you're at that point you kind of both their perspectives. But I think as a player, I think it would have been really interesting to be back in Ellie's after all of this like setup of like, fuck, now I don't know which side I want to win, or if any.
It would have been cool if they had like maybe done like 5 switch ups in like 2 minutes, and you just had like a really like back and forth between punches or something like really cinematic. So you don't really know how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know.
I actually think we should have jumped Tommy for 5 days before and played through him again.
Yeah, just do some like fucking. It becomes like Sniper Elite the game.
Yeah.
Yo, I do kind of.
And get back to.
I really would have liked to have
that
seen
point
more
again.
of Tommy's.
No, I feel like if
existence in
it
Seattle.
went backwards again, I would have like thrown my controller through the television.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
I
funny
get
that you mentioned that because this is the first time we've mentioned any of the side characters by name, really. And I think, like, I personally, this is where the game, of the things that the game did, I think they didn't get me as engaged to care about. Like, I don't really care about the girl that
The pregnant one.
who's Ellie's.
Oh, Dina.
Dina. I didn't really care that much about her. I didn't really understand.
I like Dina.
Yeah, I liked her a lot too.
Did you? She's
Yeah.
hot, but like, I
She was just like down to like she went on this whole thing to help Ellie
but like
Yeah.
why?
revenge. Because she loves Ellie. She's
Yeah.
Like she knew Ellie for like didn't her and Ellie's relationship start like the night before?
no, they've
No,
lived with each other for years.
Yeah, it says it in the journal. Like, so during the flashbacks, you can go into Ellie's journal and read like what she's written in her journal at that time.
I did that
And there
sometimes.
are like, yeah, there are things where it's like, you know, because she has like a girlfriend in one of the journals, or at least like, you know, someone who she's
Yeah, the
like kind of
tattoo
hooking up with.
artists, Yeah.
Yeah, but she does like mention Dina, and like I think there's like a jealousy, but so I do think a lot of these characters, like, you know, I forget, you know, Dina's baby daddy, like
Jesse.
they're all like friends
Jess.
/ like, you know, they're all like growing up together.
Mm.
Although I on that note, Liam, Jesse was sort of the character that I was like, damn, I didn't want him to die, but I also like if I had to pick a character out of anyone in this building, it would probably be him because like I just didn't have the biggest.
Yeah, he had
You
a
know,
red
Yeah.
shirt for
He
sure.
should have.
Like,
I didn't have the biggest connection.
Had him save Tommy from getting killed by Abby, like in that section of the game.
that was a good
like,
point when you said that.
Because Jesse and Ellie have this moment where they're like, there are two paths right now. We can go to save Tommy. We can go to try to find whoever this Abby girl is. Jesse has to go try to save Tommy, but then it doesn't come up. You know, like you throw Tommy into the water with Lev's help, and that's it. I guess presumably Jesse sees him in the water and like
Yeah, they should have.
helps him out of the water like
yeah,
off screen.
he just
like,
leaves. Yeah,
yeah, it should have been a more like
That's such a
Abby
good line,
is
yeah.
about to kill Tommy and Jesse stops it somehow
Yeah.
and they get separate.
yeah.
You know,
No, that's
That's such
definitely
a minor
you know,
thing, but like totally fair. Like definitely.
because then it's like, yeah, see, if Jesse had listened to Ellie and gone, Tommy would have died right then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
but I would say beyond Jesse and like the pregnant woman, who like I don't think you're supposed to like really love her because Abby doesn't really like her too much, or there's some animosity there. But yeah, beyond those two characters, I really like.
Mel.
Yeah.
Mel, is her name.
Oh yeah, Mel. Yeah. Beyond those two, I really liked all of the side characters. I loved the guy who lives in Owen.
Yeah.
Thought he was amazing, like
I
like
liked
really
him a lot,
amazing
too.
performance. Yeah.
Sure. I guess I was talking about like the cast in the theater.
Okay.
But I really loved all of Abby's side characters as you were going through her story with them.
And I especially loved Owen's like just being like, I'm done with this. Like
Yeah.
I can't like
Totally,
fucking go
totally.
through this
Totally.
killing and having my friends killed anymore. I
Yeah.
need to just leave.
I think it's funny with Mel that like, you know, you're not supposed to like her, but it's kind of like when you watch Breaking Bad, and like, you know, Walt's doing all these terrible things.
Oh,
and
no.
Skylar
no.
brings it up.
She's so
But,
much
like,
better than
she's-
Skylar.
No, I just mean like all Mel is worried about is her child, and she
Oh,
doesn't
yeah,
want to be
no.
around someone that she sees as a fucking psychopath.
Oh yeah, no.
Like,
Mel's intentions make all the
Yeah.
sense in the world. I just like.
And we
I
should
don't know.
say like also Owen's a terrible person for sleeping with
yeah.
Abby
Also, Owen did do that, which was like,
Yeah.
during all of this.
I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Owen-
no. They
Owen's
could. I
clearly,
could have
like, in
honestly
love with-
like didn't really need that, but like.
I agree.
It was,
totally agree.
yeah, but
Yeah, we were just talking about the sex scene, I guess, and how hot it
Yes,
was.
the sex scene.
fucking awesome. I feel like
It was
that's
good. More
just
of
like
that. Should have been interactive.
literally Neil Druckmann just being like, HBO shows always have sex scenes, and this is like as good as an HBO show, but we're lacking like sex scenes. Yeah.
This should be like the original God of War, where you would just press like
Yeah.
X over and
Honestly,
over each
honestly.
thrust.
The red orbs go flying off the bed. Like,
If you don't please Abby enough, you fail the
from
scene.
Owen's perspective, no,
Yeah.
I want to play a
The
sex
only
scene as a
time it
chick.
goes to Owen's perspective. Just a sex scene.
Oh, that'd be so bad. Yeah, I think they probably could have taken that out, and it wouldn't have affected it too much, or they could have replaced it with some moment with between them that was just very clear that they still had some feelings, or at least some like strong friendship. But yeah,
It just made me like dislike most of those characters more. Like I just because like Owen especially because like he's like with a woman that he's supposed to be fathering the child of.
Yeah, it's bad. It's
And
bad
it's
luck.
and
Even
like
the apocalypse.
yeah, and she's like, it's I don't know. It did it made me not like Owen as much. I mean, I don't like. I don't know. I mean, I think there's like a moral thing to sleep with someone that's in a relationship with someone else. So it made me like think poorly in Abby in that regard, because like she knows Mel.
yeah, and
like,
he's drunk too.
yeah.
She's sober.
It just the whole scene felt kind of gross to me, and I was just like, I don't know. Can we just go back to killing people that have names?
Yeah.
'Cause I know that had a lot of heat on it too. That scene.
Right, that's what I was trying. Yeah,
graphic.
Pretty hot.
Yeah, people were mad for whatever reason.
yeah. See, those reasons I think are dumb. From like a storytelling perspective, it felt a little bit, like I said, like a sort of we're trying to be legit, like an HBO show.
You can have Abby have sex with someone. Just have her have sex with someone that
like a clicker or something,
Like a clicker.
It's really gross.
I know they're fucking like disgusting, and like the graphics have gotten so good that they're just
so
like
good.
viscerally so
Yeah,
nasty.
got like
What'd you
dicks
think of
hanging out.
the hospital sequence? Like
Oh,
Resident
Ground
Evil.
Zero. Yeah, dude.
Oh.
That honestly, I thought that was like personally, I thought it was so harrowing. Like just considering the climate that we're living in right now, going through an actual pandemic, I was like getting so uncomfortable just as soon as you have to enter there and you're seeing the like fucking hospital. Oh,
Yeah,
So
I had my
intense.
favorite notes to read, like of the doctors
Oh,
just
yeah.
going through, like trying to figure out what's happening. Like, oh my god, no one's telling us anything.
Yeah,
like,
just
we're not allowed to
exhausted.
leave. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, listen, we can't just quarantine this hospital. It's fucked. Like there's
Yeah.
articles that are like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. It's I just
there's just one I really liked where it was like a dead guy, and he was like, what the fuck? Like, they told us they're infected people here. They thought they were just going to be dying, not people. They ripped apart my unit.
Yeah.
Like, I got bit a few times, but I'm going to take some more of these fuckers out before I go.
Yeah,
it's
that
like
guy.
Yeah.
saves a bullet,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, this is insane.
Yeah, or like there's one where you go in the room and it's like the patient and they're like, they locked me in here, blah, blah, blah. And the like handwriting is like getting more erratic. It's like,
right.
oh man. What did you think of like the that big
The Rat
baddie?
King.
Yeah.
That's what it's called or referred to in like the in-game menus of
Oh,
like, the
yeah.
characters and stuff. I think it's called the Rat King.
Okay.
Not really sure why, but honestly, it was the best, most surprising moment in the game to me, because I didn't think they were gonna go full survival horror on us, but that felt
Yeah,
like
it was very Resident Evil.
that felt like one of the best Resident Evil boss fights ever. And like seriously, like it was awesome. It was so
Yeah.
fucking like scary, visceral in your face.
Oh, it's
and,
terrifying.
Yeah,
It's like
I
dark.
remember,
what?
And I was like running around. I was like, why? How? What is happening?
Yeah, I was like, how am I gonna fucking kill this? Like,
Yeah.
how much is it gonna take? Oh my god, terrifying.
Then one comes off of it
Yeah.
and is chasing you around independently of the bigger thing. It's like, fuck.
And I love how the game kind of like teaches you like not like indirectly like that these organisms that become infected have like a life cycle, and like the longer they live or exist, the more fucked up they get. The cordyceps takes over more of their like automotive functions and stuff, and the spores grow on them. They become. You can see that like an infected that like is not moving around becomes the next evolution,
Right.
and that becomes the boomer, or not the boomer, the bloater.
Yeah, bloater.
There's
Yeah.
bloaters, and then this new game had a new enemy called the Shambler.
Yeah,
Right.
but they all seem like they're evolutions of the same thing. Like I want
Just depends how long they've been infected for.
or the circumstances they're under. Like the thing, I think, yeah, like the Rat King, right, was in the cellar of a hospital for 40 years. Is that how long it's been? Or like 20, 30
Yeah,
years?
like
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, almost like 30.
So if it's like a fungal organism, like that's just reproducing on top.
Yeah.
Fucking, that's why it was so cool to me, because I'm like, oh man, in this universe, this makes sense. Like, this isn't jumping a shark. Like, this
Really
is
like ground zero.
yeah,
Yeah, dude.
I dug it.
It's insane.
All right.
But yeah, as far as like, I did want to talk about like the realism and sort of how it perfectly, to me, like balanced being very realistic in a lot of aspects, but knowing when it's like, when it is a game, when it's almost like a Nathan Drake-esque like adventure game slash, building up your weapons, which is like so cool to see. But it's not like it's gonna take like fucking 20 minutes. Like she just like does it off screen and then it like comes back. Or even like picking up objects that like you're gonna craft with. It's like she just like puts it behind her. It's in her backpack. I don't fucking care to see her like put her bag down and like put it in. Like it's not over realistic in that point of like Red Dead 2, but at the same time it's hella realistic in so many other ways, graphically and just like
It knows when to be a game.
Yeah, I'll put a clip here that I saved of like Abby fighting one of those like jacked Seraphites, and it's just like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Like, I went to hit him, he blocked it, he grabbed Abby, threw Abby over a table. I was able to like dodge his one hit, take out a shotgun and shoot him in the head, and I was like, what the fuck? This is amazing.
Yeah.
7.5.
Like, yeah, this is like this is one of the craziest things that I've ever seen in a game. Like, no other game would have all this animation built into it. It would be so clunky. It wouldn't be like a smooth, like fluid, like this feels and looks like a choreographed fight scene from a movie.
Yep.
And it's real time in the game happening.
It definitely like affected how I played too. Like, I would be very stealthy at the beginning. And then once I was like, all right, I have a ton of like ammo and stuff. I'm like pretty solid. I would be like, I got to make this shit cinematic because that's what the game like wants me to do. Totally. So I'm going to like, run around and then shoot and like throw things. Oh man, so fun. Yeah.
Dude, I had like 8 shotgun shells at one point. I saw like a pack of like 8 people like coming down at me down like one of the streets in one of the later alley levels, and I'm like, I could go around these people, but it's really cool to blow someone away with a shotgun in this game. So I just cleaned house.
Yeah, dude.
I like the aiming in the sense that it's good, but it's not too easy. Like if you get panicked, you can definitely miss a shot you should make,
Totally.
Which I did a bunch of times. Like, oh fuck, too much is happening, I'll miss a shot. And then like the scarcity of ammo when you just completely biff a shot, you're just like, fuck, like I might not be able to beat this now because I need like 3 bullets, you know what? Like,
one thing that's like really cool is like, I don't know like if this is like conveyed in other games, but maybe it's just because of how like visceral The Last of Us 2 is. But like if you can stay calm and like aim and shoot, like your character will have really good aim. But if you're erratic, and like you're moving around constantly, it really waves.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that was the game's way of saying like, you got to stay calm if you want to like take the most of the advantage of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And how hard that is or can be as it goes on. I really enjoyed the game until Santa Barbara. I think.
Okay, I want to hear
I
this.
I didn't like hate it, but I didn't find it necessary.
So yeah, I wanted it to keep going. I was like, also in my head, I didn't really know what to expect.
Sure.
Logically, it makes sense that Ellie just wants to finish this and kill Abby. But in my head, I'm like, okay, this is like redemption, and knowing where Abby is, Ellie can just like save her, and it's like a happy ending.
Yeah,
That's obviously not the case, and
you spared me, I saved you.
yeah,
We can go our separate ways,
right,
now and never think of each other again.
right. But then it leads to that fight at the end, which I will say is hands down the most brutal moment in gaming that I've ever had to, control. Like the way that's just like these two fucking characters who are completely exhausted. You as a gamer are exhausted because you've been playing this dark world for 30 plus hours. And for me, at least, it lasted so long. Like I just couldn't like get it done quickly enough. And it's just like this.
No, I think it's supposed to last long because I feel like I did a really good job dodging all of Abby's punches, but it still was like a 5-minute ordeal.
Yeah,
just
the
to
sound,
get to the drowning thing.
Yeah, it was honestly, and then the cutscene it just goes even further. But just the fighting was just actually the most disturbing like thing I've had to do in a game. It's just so like sickening.
Did you guys know that's what Ellie's motivation was, to spare her though? I thought she was going there to kill her.
No, she was, and she did
her
at the
sparing
end. But I was hoping that it was going to turn into a redemption once she saw what the rattlers were like, that she's just gonna
same
at the last second decide to just let her go with Lev.
Yeah, I really
went into it wrong. Sorry, go tomorrow.
Here's what I thought was gonna happen. Because you get to you're past, you save them, and then there's like the two boats, and like the main menu during the whole game is just like this one boat alone, like floating there. And in my head, I was like, okay, so that's like, this is where the game ends. Like you get on a boat with these two people, you've kind of like Ellie realizes like, this is just a cruel world and I've like saved you. And I don't know. In my head, I was like making it a much more happy ending where they all get on one boat, escape. Sure. And then you have like this like lone boat that like Ellie just decided not to split up with them. But it's just it's such a dark, conflicting ending, but it's like, yeah, it's just so effective.
Yeah, I was thinking like she was gonna kill it, and then she was gonna see the shape that Abby was in and all like the fucked up shit that group did. And she was just gonna be like, this is all just too much, just like get in the boat and go.
Yeah, it was like that was enough. Like that basically was my vengeance. Yeah.
I guess I like it. I like the way you guys have talked about this sequence because it makes me look at it in a different light. Ellie was going for revenge, right? So Abby goes on a revenge tale, ends up costing all of the people that she thought she cared about, after, in retribution for the killing of Joel. Ellie goes after Abby, and her consequences, she loses her like fingers
can't play guitar.
Can't play guitar, so now she has no connection to Joel at all. And she loses that connection to the person that she cared about. Like I liked that a lot, but it was just like fuck. Like it's just like this is no good.
Yeah, when it ended and then it like she didn't kill her, right? Yeah. She let her go, which is what I wanted, but I didn't want like her to lose her fingers and all that. But,
no.
And we get.
I didn't know it was 2 fingers either. I was like just her pinky. Yeah. Okay, she could still kind of play guitar.
Right?
No. 2 fingers, motherfucker.
She gets back to the house, and Dina and JJ. Yeah, which I assume is for Joel and Jesse. They're gone, and then you like try to play guitar and you can't, and then it like ends. I was just like, whew. That was bleak. That was so bleak.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It is.
It was like a final hammering of the theme down. I think just kind of like.
I mean, I got the theme.
I know.
I
but, like,
understood
you
Neil
gotta commit
Druckmann.
to it. I guess if you're writing the story, right? Like if that's what you want to tell, like
I did think he had a little trouble ending it too, where
Yeah.
it like fake ended like 4 times.
yeah, that
And
was
and it didn't end. Is like Abby lets Ellie lives, breaking the cycle of violence, right? And then you get to see another scene of Ellie on the farm, taking advantage of her being spared and living life and progressing.
Mm-hmm.
But then she goes back. Like it didn't.
It could have ended there.
They didn't add
Technically.
anything
That's-
to the ending.
yeah.
It just like it gave Ellie the chance to just repeat Abby's ending herself. And I was like, I don't know if this was necessary to do.
But see, like now that you say it like that, I guess that's why I like it. I didn't like it because I felt like I was thinking like, okay, essentially these characters are in the same spot that they were at the end of Seattle. Like, but they weren't. I guess they're really not. They weren't, and they're like, I just feel like you could have gotten what you were trying to get out of this from like an extra 20 minutes in Seattle versus like an extra 2.5 hours in Santa Barbara. I liked the gameplay of Santa Barbara, but as you just said, it is kind of just like hammering it in again. Like they
I don't
probably
know. I think it's a different sort of conclusion because earlier Abby just leaves her and she's like, I don't want to see you again. And that's like, that's Abby's conclusion. It's not Ellie's. Ellie's, it could have been like at the farm if she didn't, essentially have PTSD and like, but like Ellie really didn't have a conclusion if you really think about it. That was Abby's conclusion and Ellie needed her own. And it kind of you needed that moment of like Joel let her live and she's thrown in and she's basically this cruel fucking world, and ultimately though he's the one who also like has her keep her humanity and keep her, like, she doesn't kill Abby, she ends up sparing her, or at least she can't do it because she still has a bit of like humanity in her. And I personally definitely needed an ending like that for Ellie, at least, rather than just like ending on the farm and it's like happy ending on a beautiful farm. I do think would have been happier if like he didn't fucking leave her beautiful goddamn farm, but like that would have been a little bit more happy, but like
Also, I could never live in a farm during this apocalypse. Like, like, oh my god, I can't sleep.
Yeah.
fair enough.
I just went through all the concept art. I was like, yeah, I can't just like go to bed right now.
Yeah. It's like Jackson at least has walls and stuff and guards. Like, maybe you can sleep then, even earlier in the game when Ellie has her headphones in listening to music, I'm like, no, I would never have my headphones in this world. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to get caught slipping by some, clicker, some shit. Like, anyways, that was just me.
That was a really good case, Tamur. I agree, I guess now. I think I guess it was more important than I was giving it credit for. I guess like Brian says, like the game, it was like the Lord of the Rings. It just keeps ending. You know what I mean? It just keeps, but like, I kind of see what you mean. And
it's definitely...
you needed another arc there for it to be full circle.
Right.
You're right.
It's definitely fatiguing though, for sure. And then you kind of get into like territory of like, okay, there's a whole new gang. As soon as you see the logo when you're Abby in Santa Barbara and you're like, oh, there's a whole nother faction here. I'm like really gonna have to feel like empathetic for a whole nother group of people. That's when for me it was like luckily, a little bit fatiguing. Then they make it obvious that these people are like cruel and disgusting. But they kind of had to, because like otherwise it would just been like, oh man,
too much. Yeah, it was pretty much guilt free just killing these people.
Yeah,
like,
I was
whatever, like, fuck them all.
Yeah, like I freed the prisoners, right? But I'm like, who are they gonna go kill? I literally killed. I cleaned it up, man. Like,
It must have been something else. But hey, did you catch at the end? The loading screen after you beat the game is Abby's boat on the island that she was going to where the other fireflies were.
Oh, is that where it
Catalina.
was?
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
That's what
Oh.
people said online. Anyways, that she's on the Catalina
I'm
Islands.
cool. I don't need any more of this universe for like another 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, I
You know
just
what I mean?
I
Like, I just-
assumed, that they made it, and like I
Mm.
just hope they had a happy ending. I didn't. Yeah, I just assumed that that loading screen was the same place because you have like that round building in the background, which looked like
Right,
the place
yeah.
where they kept the prisoners.
Yeah. That's what I thought it
for
was
sure,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool though.
But, yeah.
That's that.
Well, I guess either of you guys gonna go through on New Game Plus and just go and
I
have more fun, with all your dope weapons that you have by the end of the game and run through the early levels, or
I don't know if I'll do New Game Plus, but I do see myself playing through this again at some point, maybe on the hard difficulty setting.
I would want to go back just to find all the collectibles.
Yeah, and for that, I would do
Yeah.
a cleanup playthrough like that, where like, I'm sure there's some subtext that I missed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
tried
was
to be
always so
super thorough,
good.
but
Like,
Same, but then I looked through the fucking thing. It's like, oh, I guess I missed 20 letters in this section. I like,
oh, can you check somewhere?
Yeah. Oh, they make it really good for like achievement and like trophy hunters.
okay.
There's like 9 sequences of gameplay, where it's like Seattle day 1, day 2,
Right.
farm 1, farm 2, and Santa Barbara and stuff.
Tells you.
And then
Okay.
each one has like a list of all the collectibles. in it.
I'm so glad that games are doing that now. Like Gears 5 did the same thing, so I was like able to actually like 100% it. But yeah,
yeah,
I don't
might
know.
Go back and like stream it, just like dicking around while trying.
well, yeah. So that's like I don't know if
Yeah.
I'll play it again soon, just because it's knowing
It's a lot.
it's
Yeah.
very heavy. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
what I am hoping happens is like the actors, like because Troy Baker played like the first game. He's the guy who plays Joel. He played the first game in like a series of like 11-hour-long episodes on YouTube, and he had all of the cast and eventually like an episode with like
that's
Neil
great.
Druckmann. It's
That's
really
great,
worth
yeah.
watching. And that was the sort of case where it's like I hadn't played The Last of Us in a while. So I'm down to take this adventure again, especially with like new backstory things. And Troy Baker's just like such a
That's
joy.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
He's
definitely
like-
recommend that. It's on Retro Replay.
Neil's like, yeah, I'll come, but I mean, I'm just gonna kill your character off now, so you don't make me do this again.
Yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah.
All right, let's Last of Us 1 or 2, which one's better?
I don't know what one's better. I know which one I prefer.
Okay.
I
What?
prefer Last of Us 1
Yeah.
because it's a tighter story.
You prefer
Yeah.
1 to watch?
No,
I
yeah.
prefer 2, personally. think it's a better
I
game.
see one is like so near and dear to my heart, and this one I just like literally beat this weekend, so it's like fresh, and I always feel weird like judging things
Right.
so
yeah,
close
yeah,
to
of
like when I
course.
finished it. But I don't know, this game has so many special moments that are, I think, totally on par with one. Like the draft petting scene is like totally equal to like all of the stuff in the
Zebras.
aquarium, and the zebra, and it's like a lot of things like that where it really lives up to the first one in a way that's like seemed impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're 2. Liam.
I got
Tier
so you're 2?
I
What'd you say?
can't decide.
Can't decide. No, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
I also think I said this to Brian. I think like there was a lot of upfront hate for this game online, but I think like it's gonna be like Halo 2. When like people first started playing as the Arbiter, they were like pissed.
Really?
But then like in hindsight, people think it's a great campaign. But in the moment, it was like very unpopular when people were like, "I'm not playing as Chief." I think that there's gonna be like a retrospective renaissance for this game. I think a lot of people are gonna see it for what it is and not what they wanted it to be.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I would have been so disappointed if this game was just you play as Joel for most of the time. It's like more of his like redemption arc / reckoning. I would have been extremely disappointed. I think I would have probably lied to myself and said I liked it, like The Hobbit I did for many years, but and I would have had fun, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think this was just so unique and really pushed like video gaming as a medium farther than like a lot of games do.
Do you think this will be game of the year?
I mean, what else is there? Yeah,
Cyberpunk.
Death Stranding was last year, I think.
Yeah.
Was it
Oh
last
yeah,
year?
Cyberpunk.
No, sorry.
Doom
I guess we'll have to
Eternal
see,
came out. That
man.
was great. Half-Life Alyx is the best game I've played this year.
Half-Life Alyx. Yeah, this has been a great year, and yeah, I don't
For
know.
video games.
I think this will probably win
Everything
like
else has sucked.
this will probably win like best screenplay and writing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'd give it,
no doubt.
because I think Cyberpunk.
Most video games
incredible,
don't
but-
have the best writing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
video
gonna
games
be
are
weird.
amazing and fun, but
Yeah.
you know,
But I will say, like, The Witcher 3 is the best game I've ever played still. So like, I'm not gonna like I'm not even thinking about Cyberpunk. I'm like, if it's gonna be as good as The Witcher 3, hell yeah. But like, it could. I mean, it could.
I think
This is the best year for games. I think that, like you just said,
I'm
that
really
we've had since
excited for
2008. maybe.
Cyberpunk.
Like,
Yeah.
You have BioShock,
Right.
Fallout
Call of Duty Modern Warfare
3,
which,
Call of
like,
Duty Modern Warfare.
completely reinvented
BioShock
Call
might
of
come out in
Duty.
2007. I think I'm confusing that.
Yeah,
Imagine
we're really
that
lucky this year. I feel like like the games have been worked on for like the last 5 years. So I don't know what's gonna even like come out the next year, or the year after. But it's like these games are massive and they're just incredible.
Bigger.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, getting bigger and bigger and more realistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good game for me. I know you guys loved it. So if people somehow have listened to this and haven't played it, which would be a choice to be sure, a weird one, but a choice, go pick it up. It's definitely worth $60.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely not a 7.5. That's ridiculous. But, like, it's just, it's
Brian,
not,
you got to
I'm
give it
sorry.
at least an 8.
Like, come on. Like, that's what. If it's not an 8, people don't think it's even a good game. So like,
All right, I'll say it's an 8.
sure. But like, I
that
don't
make you
believe
feel
you.
better?
I
Your
also
true
know
feelings.
you said it. I know you said it was a 7.5, so I don't care. Like,
I can only like say how I felt about
go
it. You
play
know what
Madden,
I mean?
you fucking cunt. Spin better radio.
I know. It's not like I say Madden's a 10 out of 10.
Doesn't matter.
I know
It doesn't matter.
I'm
You're a
garbage
sheep.
for
You're a
playing
fucking
Madden.
sheep.
What do you give? What do you give The Last of Us 1 on a scale of 10?
A 9. And I just played The Last of Us like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
I don't think I have rose-colored glasses for it. You know.
Yeah, it only took you 7 years to play.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It's like I don't think it's nostalgia. Like I don't think I built The Last of Us 2 up in my head to this point of like.
Maybe you're just late to the party.
Because
in a
I
few
think
months,
that
you're
can
gonna be like, it was a
definitely.
great game. It was at least a 9.
I think it
Come
can
around.
definitely be an issue for some people who like built up The Last of Us Part 1 so far in their head that nothing The Last of Us Part 2 could have ever done could live up to what the built up.
Yeah.
So I hope that's not me. I don't think it is because like I said, I just played it like a little while ago, and The Last of Us Part 1, I was like hooked. Like it's one of the few times where a game really gets its claws into me, and like when I'm
agreed.
not playing it, I'm just thinking about like I want to go home and I want to play this, more.
Yeah. That's something I felt about this one though.
Yeah, well, that's how you know, like you like a game. When a game can really
Yeah.
sink its claws into you and hook you in that way.
I think personally, I never held The Last of Us in the same regard as like some people do. Like, what's a masterpiece? I thought BioShock Infinite came out the same year. I liked that game at the time more. I was a lot younger then though, so like maybe, I mean,
Yeah, I played
You know.
BioShock Infinite when it came out, and it was a similar feeling where I was like, I love this game.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
play
man.
it,
I think
all
I-
the time.
I
Yeah.
like beat that game in like 1999 mode, never using like a vending machine. I didn't do that for like The Last
That's
of Us.
insane.
That's fucking
But like,
nuts.
just showing how much how much at the time I really dug that game. I thought Last of Us 1 was like a 9, but like it didn't do anything that I hadn't seen before until the very end. And then it
Or it
did.
makes you the bad guy.
And then it did, and I thought that was super awesome. But I had played like a very similar game to The Last of Us in The Walking Dead by Telltale, like narratively speaking, that I kind of compared it to, and I think The Walking Dead season 1 has a better story than either of these games, in my opinion. It's just so rounded, and it's just like
It's super good for sure.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's-
it's amazing.
It's
I don't know.
minimalist.
Like I
To
would
me-
never say a bad word about The Walking Dead
Yeah,
season
no,
1.
same.
Like
But to me, like the thing with the Last of Us 1 that really like changed the game for me was like how you're interacting with Ellie, not in any cutscenes, but like you just walking around the world, talking to her. She's like, in the first part of the game, she's like literally walking behind you, and then like your friendship or your relationship with her like grows, and like you notice these things with like the AI. I just thought that was like
Yeah.
so brilliant, and this game does a similar thing too with like Lev and stuff like that. But yeah, that and just the environment for me, it just like totally hit the right spots back in like whatever 2013 or whatever year it came out, and I played it, and just the color scheme and yeah,
Yeah.
like I
And
said,
I guess like at the end of the day, don't be one of those people who didn't play it and just like says it's SJW trash. Like just
Yeah, for
play
sure.
the game
Yeah,
and
that
like
shit's
form your own
crazy.
opinion on it. Because
so dumb.
yeah,
I was reading comments and I'm like, wow, mental illness has never been like. What is this? A fucking Fox News video? Like,
It's
this
literally
is
just,
a news video.
I-
I don't know. It's
yeah.
just crazy.
I text this to Brian like early on. It's like this, like it really gives gamers a bad name. Like it just
Oh, yeah.
portrays like the most
It's so
fucking
bad.
toxic people who are not willing to like play as a female character or like a lesbian.
and
It's
that
just like
sucks too. Because Ellie is awesome and playing
Yeah.
as Abby's awesome. What I don't know, and I think I want to maybe do a video about this for the channel of like comparing the leaks to what was actually the game.
it'd be hilarious.
Because there were some fucking crazy leaks that were just not.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Like
I
the
thought
game.
the leaks were like spot on.
No, they were saying like
I didn't read them.
Abby was also transgender, like male to female.
Right.
I think just because they
Jesus
saw Abby's
Christ.
character model and assumed. It was
Yeah.
Yo,
Abby's
I-
built like Ronda Rousey, sure, but like there's also like a gym.
But it's also it
Like,
has to do with
in
her
her-
character and
Yeah.
her like her mentality of like building up this fucking like physique
she-
to like get through this world and like
4 years. You know, she went
Yeah.
4 years, and all she wanted was to kill this Joel guy. You know what I mean? She's
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
working out, she had a goal. But I also do think, like, if the leaks didn't happen, not only would people like this, it's like pretty subtle about the whole transgender, like. You know,
it's just
oh yeah.
It's one
two
throwaway line
things,
that I bet the people that you see complaining about these are so fucking stupid that they wouldn't have picked up on that.
right.
They probably
doubt
wouldn't
that,
have. And it's like that's a bummer because like it's not
Because
fucking
Lev
in your
gets called
face.
Lily a few times.
Yeah,
on
like-
NPCs,
You're like
and then there's a little conversation about that.
yeah, but it's subtle enough to where like you. I'm saying like a dumb person probably isn't picking it up, and like these people are dumb for thinking that. So
Yeah.
like, and I just
Well,
agree
yeah,
with everything you guys are saying.
There was like a dumb when there was a rumor that the WLF was like anti-gay, and that's the whole reason why they were like chasing Ellie, which is like literally the most
Wow.
bullshit thing ever. Is like, why the fuck would these writers make that? It would just be so fucking offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was wishful thinking on their their part. Fucking dumbasses. but-
Yeah, I watched some people like take apart like some of the like after I beat the game, I watched them like react to like the leaks and stuff, and these people just are like
Sad.
so fucking dramatic for the fucking camera because they know it'll get views.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah,
yo,
yeah,
if I
it's
have
so
a
bad.
contrarian opinion about something, it's like I think like there's this guy, Angry Joe, right?
Right.
I'll call him out. I'll
It won't be the worst call out he's received this week.
he was like I watched it was so fucking pathetic.
Yeah.
Like it was a grown man be like, I don't even want to fucking play the game anymore. And I'm like, all right, bro. You fucking yeah. Well no, it's
Yeah.
like
then just don't.
how dare you? Like there's so many shitty games that are so much shittier. Like if we're just talking gameplay and animations.
Yeah.
If we're just talking gameplay and animations, how many hours wasted the fucking like time and lives like
Yeah.
for games that are much lesser in I think every regard, but
Yeah.
undisputedly most.
Well, for this episode, is there anything else anyone wants to bring up? Make sure that you mention before we get on out of here.
I honestly think we probably forgot a ton of stuff,
Yeah, definitely.
but I think we did a pretty good job overall. Hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah, I want to say
People
that too.
let us
I just,
know.
I just want to say we did a good job. That's all I want to
think
say.
so for sure.
Yeah. This was a good talk.
It's just that meme of like giving metal to itself. Like, have you ever seen that where they photoshopped Barack Obama's face on the picture of giving
Yeah.
him metal? That's us right now.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
wow, we really nailed
Killed
that.
this
Totally.
episode.
Yeah.
Totally. Like a dog to a landmine
Yeah.
that you have to play catch with later and feel bad.
Okay. Yep.
Oh man. So yeah, Last of Us 2, check it out. We definitely give it our seal of approval. If you liked this, maybe subscribe to the channel. I know we haven't uploaded before this in like 3 weeks, but that will change. I promise. We'll be much more consistent. And if you enjoyed listening to this on iTunes, maybe give Better Radio a subscription. We don't usually talk about video games. We usually interview creators and comedians in, our area, or I guess wherever we can find them online. But maybe every now and then, maybe we'll throw a little bit more gaming into it. There's actually a back-to-back gaming
Yes.
episodes, weirdly enough. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You can check us out normally on Wicked Good Podcasts by searching that. This channel, of course, is youtube.com/wickedgoodeverything. You can follow us on Twitter at WGEverything, on Instagram at wickedeverything, on Twitch at twitch.tv/wickedeverything, and search us on TikTok, Wicked Good Everything.
Don't do that.
Liam, where can they find you online?
I'm on TikTok. No. I'm on Twitter at real Liam Marr. It's probably where you want to find me, I guess. I don't know if you want to find
And
me.
Tamur, you deleted your Twitter, so I can't plug you. But do you want to plug
Yeah.
anything
Oh,
else?
No, I just want people to subscribe to our Wicked
Please
Good
subscribe to the
Everything
channel.
YouTube channel.
Yes.
Sure.
You can find me on Twitter at the fake. Oh my goodness. Try that. You can find me on Twitter at the fake BMAR. That's BMARR. I tweet mostly about TV shows and the Dolphins and how sad I am about them being bad usually. And then just tons of links about Wicked Good Everything stuff.
And I tweet jokes.
And Liam tweets jokes. And Tamur doesn't tweet anymore.
I tweet
She said,
nothing.
fuck Twitter.
Fuck yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next one.